I'm happy to be joined by Jeff Gerstmann from thegiantbomb.com.
Hello.
And of course Kevin VanOrd of GameSpot to talk about what's already come out. I guess Q1 is kind of done and dusted. We've closed the doors on the first quarter of the year.
Yeah.
I'm going to get into sales figures and stuff later on, but first of all, what's been your favorite game of the past three and a half months or so?
Yeah, I don't know. It's there's been some good stuff. Nothing that is like just straight up like, oh, this is definitely the greatest game. You know, I've been playing Trials Fusion, even though I think it's not as good as the previous Trials game. Like the leaderboard stuff is still good enough. Infamous was fun, but you know, I kind of blew through it in a day.
What about Titanfall? You played a lot of that.
I did. I played a lot of Titanfall right around release, and then I probably ended up playing about 25 hours of it. And it's really well made, but you know, like they announced like that DLC, I'm just like, don't care. Like,
you don't think that?
It's weird. I feel like this is the first Titanfall conversation I've had with anyone in about a month.
Really?
Yeah.
It sold 300,000 or so on Xbox One and about 100,000 on Xbox 360. I find that number weird. I thought it was going to sell way more on the old consoles.
How do you even have a number for Xbox 360? Did they put that out?
Yeah, I saw it on an article somewhere.
Because that came out in April, so the March NPDs wouldn't say anything about it. Of course. So maybe you're thinking PC?
Or maybe I made it up.
Maybe.
Either way.
Or maybe EA put out numbers, who knows?
So do you think that game has been successful enough for them? Do you think it was most important as a software sale, or was it as a reason to get people to buy Xbox One?
I think it actually, you know, that's Microsoft's motivation on that end. I don't think that any of that actually matters. I think that they planted a very firm flag and said Titanfall is a very big world-class marquee franchise. So when the second one comes out on all platforms, you will all already know what this is and rush out to hopefully go buy it. You know, they did a great job of establishing the franchise, and you know, they made a great game. You know, it is a lot of fun to play, but I just don't know how much longer I'm going to be interested in playing competitive first-person shooters.
Just
anymore.
Full stop.
Yeah, you know, you look at kind of what Call of Duty, the trend of Call of Duty for the past couple of years. Like, I mean, now like Ghosts, for Ghost, Activision is just sending out desperation emails all the time. They're like, do you want to buy Snoop Dogg announcer pack? Or, I mean, we've got weed leaves you can put on your gun, and now we're selling them because, like, and then their like whatever service sends out like, you got 8 headshots that last round. That's more than you've ever got. And I'm like, I haven't played this game in 4 months. I don't know.
Wait, it sends you emails?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Like the number of things they've turned on for Call of Duty in an attempt to remind you that it exists and that maybe you accidentally bought it is a pretty clear sign that things are maybe not going their way.
So you think maybe Titanfall has tied itself onto a genre that's sort of already on a downward?
Seems like
what could they do with a Titanfall 2 that would make you feel compelled to play it?
I think. You know, I think a lot of it stems from my problems with kind of the first Titanfall, was that a lot of the gear felt uninteresting and sort of meaningless. You know, granted, I tend to kind of play those games a very specific way, but I feel like everyone's probably that way. But a lot of those items just didn't seem useful. Yeah. You know, they had like, what was one of the perks, like, oh, the ice pick, the hacking thing happens faster. It's like,
which you never use.
You never hack stuff. Like, who cares? Like, that's all stuff that at some point you're like, well, did they have another mode planned? Like, did they have some other stuff? And you know, they'll put up their maps and modes and stuff for this one. But I think generally that game is largely successful because it did establish a franchise and gives them like a good spot to launch off from. Whether they want to build a campaign, which, you know, I don't know that they necessarily do, or really kind of figure out what are the ways to actually blow out that combat, and whether it's like, is it just more higher player count or whatever. But all
right, stepping away from the consoles for a second then, your favorite game of the year?
Dark Souls 2 probably so far. Although I gotta give a shout out to The Wolf Among Us, which I'm not a big fan of the Walking Dead universe, so I never really cared about the games that much. I didn't care about the world. It's funny though, The Wolf Among Us the world was new to me. I didn't read Fables until I'd played the first episode, and then so I played the first episode, and then I ran out and grabbed Fables volumes and started reading them voraciously, and now I think that universe is really awesome, actually. And the third episode in particular, the one that just came out, is fantastic. And I actually would rather, you know, play those games 8 days a week over The Walking Dead.
That's one of 3 different, one of those sort of, I don't know, what do we call these now? Adventure, just chapter-based games?
The episodic adventures.
Yeah. But you know, we've had The Wolf Among Us, Walking Dead, and
specific Telltale style too, which I actually can't stand.
Really?
Like the gameplay stuff, like especially the way they handle action. Like that first episode of Wolf Among Us, where they're like, now get in a fist fight, and you're like,
right.
oh, this is like everything I hated about The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I'm good. Like this is so cool.
It's starting to get stale. I mean, already, you go from Walking Dead getting Game of the Year awards from different places to,
right.
Already we sort of know more or less how things are going to go.
Like it's becoming more trite with every single one of these games that comes out.
Maybe it's just the weird bubble that I live in these days, but it feels like no one is talking about The Walking Dead season 2.
Yeah, I have to, but then you always see the numbers that come out, especially for stuff like iPad, and suddenly you realize there's a massive amount of people playing these games.
It's one of those things where no one talks about Skylanders anymore,
right.
but it's quietly out there making $1 zillion and all that stuff, where it's just they build their fan base and cater to that fan base, and they're not necessarily pulling people in anymore.
The conversations we're involved in anyway.
Yeah.
What about Broken Age then? Sort of, another one of those adventure games being released in 2 parts, but very different in terms of gameplay to the other 2.
I'll leave this one to Jeff because I didn't actually play Broken Age.
So
it's a casualty of Telltale oversaturating the adventure game genre. You know what? I played a little bit of Broken Age and thought it was incredibly well made.
Yeah.
And had zero desire to continue playing it.
Did you complete it?
Nope.
No.
Even the short first episode, I was just like, yeah, no, this is all really well made. Maybe I'll get back to it someday. And yeah, I just I liked season 1 of Sam & Max when Telltale put that out.
Right.
That was great. And then kind of everything after that's been like, maybe adventure games really did go away for a reason.
I find I did the same thing. I played probably about 2 hours of that, never got to the end of it. And the thing that irked me was knowing that when I continued playing, I'd never finish it, that I'd have to wait. And that's the thing that annoyed me about the way I play the Walking Dead games was I waited for everything to come out, tried to keep away from spoilers, and then just barrel through it in one go. Yeah.
See, I like going through it in the episodic style because I don't really watch much television.
Right.
So for me, this sort of takes that place of something for me to look forward to. In a month or so, when the next installment comes out, I can sort of ruminate on what I think might happen, or what this means, or what that means.
Yeah. So what about Dark Souls 2 then?
Dark Souls 2 is a really great game, and I feel sort of bad that it, the kerfuffle around the visuals and how it didn't look as good as the first showings of the game, and how the lighting model had changed and things like that. I felt like
that's only like every video game ever released.
Yeah,
you can say
they put out a trailer that was like their ambitions for the game, and then the realities of developing for old-ass console hardware hit them.
Yep.
Weird.
Yeah, and it's too bad because the game is really excellent in its own right. I still maintain that Dark Souls, the original, is very special, and I don't think Dark Souls 2 really captured all of that. But I think it's still awesome, and it has this big world that I loved exploring. And I'm still in it. I'm still playing the PC version now, going through and hopefully finish for a second time and see how that goes.
Then a third time, and then a fourth time.
Well, there are bosses that I missed the first time around.
Oh, well, you have to go back and play it again.
A whole little area that I never even saw, that I didn't even know existed until I started playing the PC version. I'm like, what's down there? And I dropped down, and suddenly there's this whole thing I'd never seen, and there's a boss in there, and so on and so forth. So that, and to me, that's the wonder of Dark Souls, is that there's so much out there to take in.
And it's such a big game and such a difficult game, but when I was looking through all the sort of titles that came out in the past 3 or 4 months, the amount of smaller experience, like Nidhogg, Jazz Punk, stuff like that.
Oh, Jazz Punk is amazing.
There's so many of those
I loved Jazz Punk so much. What a great game. Yeah.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, I'm not.
Really?
Actually,
Right. Have you completed
I
it?
forgot about it. Yes. Yeah.
Because I got freaked out about 3 levels in and
there's only like 4. So
okay, all right.
you should just go take care of it.
Is it? So I've only been in this industry a couple of years. You guys have been around a lot longer. There seems to be that whole split between whatever's the big mainstream game and then your indie stuff. Is it that the middle tier games have disappeared? Because when I was looking through the list of what's come out, it seems to be either go big or go home, or and then these kind of small indie titles.
The bigger titles are just getting bigger and more. They become more risk averse as a result. So that's why you have things like, we're gonna make another Gears of War, I guess, because that's an established franchise that they can justify spending a bunch of money on. And then your publishers like THQ and Midway don't exist anymore, and you have even the publishers that we still think of as like smaller publishers, like a Warner, or even Ubisoft to some extent. I still, for whatever reason, think of as like they're not quite on the level of like an EA or something.
Are we getting better games out of it though? When you look at like some of those small games,
Yeah,
like
totally. I think we're getting more games. We're getting riskier games out of the smaller end,
Yep.
and it's way more exciting. You know, if you think about it, what we're losing out on are a lot of mid-tier games that you would have some really heartwarming, interesting things like like Alter Echo or
Blitz the League.
Yeah, Blitz the League, or just psyops. Weird kind of interesting kind of genre titles that don't necessarily exist in that way anymore.
It's weird thinking about who's in that space now, and I keep thinking Dead Island, and then I can't come up with anything else off the top of my head of who really sits in that space anymore.
How about Wolfenstein?
Oh, yeah.
Wolfenstein is kind of the ultimate, like, they're just putting out a shooter, I don't know, kind of game. Like, you look at it and you're like, all right, go with God, I guess.
I feel like whoever's making their trailers is doing a really good job of selling a game that maybe isn't as good as what the trailers. I don't know. I look at they seem compelling, the trailers, but then when I think about what that game is, it's a single-player 8-hour shooting game about killing Nazis. I think, I've kind of done that like 5 or 6 times.
And you think about it, like what is Wolfenstein now? They
people love killing Nazis.
I guess
they will always love
for
killing
as much
Nazis.
as they love it.
Super
like
hard.
you don't get a lot of games that have it that feature that as a core element, and so maybe this return to Nazi murder will get people back on board or something. But I just kind of look at it and go like, I kind of liked the last Wolfenstein.
Return?
Yeah, I think Return was the last one.
Or Escape?
It was just Wolfenstein.
Whatever.
It was
just yeah, that's right. It was their reboot of just
Tomb Raider.
Wolfenstein. I thought that was a good, ambitious, weird thing. But
Tumenstein.
All right, we'll talk about E3 in a second, all the games coming up. First of all, I want to quickly talk about PS4 and Xbox One, first 3 months. Jeff, first of all, which do you think has had the best, maybe not necessarily in terms of sales, in terms of what it delivers to consumers, which is the best one, do you think, at this stage?
it's PS4. I mean, it's $100 cheaper. It has most of the same games, and they often look better. Like, that's not even a question. It's pretty undeniable at this point that the PS4 is pulled ahead for a reason. It's definitely not over for the Xbox One, and I think some of the stuff that the Xbox One has, exclusively, I think is interesting and fine. Titanfall's a hell of a game.
Yeah. Arguably the biggest exclusive of. It looks on paper, it looks like it's got bigger exclusive. So, what is it about the PlayStation 4? Is it really like?
I think I just don't care about exclusives because I own both systems. So that's not really a meaningful factor to me. It's more just like, okay, if we really think about it, the vast majority of games will be available on both platforms.
Yeah. And probably on a PC as well.
Right. Yeah. But if we're just talking about consoles and trying to actually compare them, you've got a cheaper, more powerful console that has 90% the same games, and so even in this case where I don't particularly like Sony's first-party development all that much when I compare it to most of Microsoft's stuff, just franchise for franchise, I mean it's the PS4 is the console right now.
If we were having this discussion last year, we probably would have mentioned another company as well. Nintendo today announced that they're not going to have a press conference again at E3 this year, which just means that they're going to do their own thing on the side probably. Yeah. What do you think about the future of the Wii U? Is it just, are we done and dusted with that at the moment? Or are they going
I mean, they're always going to be one hit away, right? They're just, if they can. But
is that hit getting further and further away?
I think it's the thing that they run into. Well, the thing I think about is like, are they actually capable of making that game anymore?
Right.
Is Nintendo still Nintendo? And you look at the games they're putting out, like, they're fine, if that's what you're looking for. Like they had some fake thing where it's like, oh, the Reggie Mech is taking over Nintendo's Twitter account today. And like one of the things...
This is their year of Luigi for 2014?
Yeah, one of the things they tweeted was, there will be no Urban Champion 2.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, of course, because why do anything risky that might be weird and interesting?
Kind of
Go
awesome,
ahead and
maybe.
just keep putting out the same crap. It's working out so well. Not that I really wanted Urban Champion 2, but that would be something you'd look at and go like, huh. Well, someone's crazy over there. Good, but instead they can't even do that.
Yeah.
So,
looking forward to E3 then. What's your most anticipated game? I had to look to see what it was. The Order, of course, they're probably going to show more of. I guess Metal Gear Solid 5.
Sure,
Nintendo might show that Zelda that they might have showed last year. If they didn't.
Oh, the Tecmo Koei one.
Is that an actual thing?
The Dynasty Warriors Zelda game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean,
sounds great.
The rumor going around is Resident Evil 7.
Okay.
Will be shown.
So not Dino Crisis 3.
Well, probably not in favor of of Resident Evil 7, certainly. But
are you saying Capcom still makes video games? I don't know.
No, it's interesting though, because it's their chance to prove that they know that they've still got it when it comes to Resident Evil, but it could also just be another, just like point and laugh moment from the sidelines at this stage. Like, let's hope that they've learned their lessons from.
So what is it to get excited about for E3? Certainly, it's like software announcements. Is it stuff that probably nobody knows about? Is that what we're like the question mark is what we're?
That's always my favorite thing about.
You
E3.
already know what I'm excited to see at E3.
Do I?
Yeah.
All right, let's leave it at that. Jeff Gerstmann, thank you very much for coming on.
Anytime.
Kevin,
what's this inside baseball stuff going on, man?
Inside baseball.
Is it fine?
Is it the Guinness cap?
Yeah,
the Guinness video game? That'll be something I get excited about. Thanks very much, gents, for coming on. As ever, we'll be back after a quick little break.